Brought to you by Tailored Wealth, helping business leaders live their version of a rich life.
Welcome to another edition of the Making Sense of Your Money podcast, where we cut through the financial noise and help business leaders to make smart, confident money decisions. Welcome to episode number 29 of the Making Sense of Your Money podcast. I'm your host, Dan Pascone. I'm the founder and CEO of Tailored Wealth, and each episode features a trusted voice in the financial world, someone who works directly with high-level professionals to simplify the complex and turn strategy into action. And I'm really excited about today's guest. We've got with us Hannah Kesler, AKA the Single Millionaire Chick, and she runs an organization, a really, really interesting one called the Money Multiplier, and she's really a money mentor. So she is perfect for our show, perfect for our audience. Hannah, thanks for joining us. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Hey man, I'm excited to be here, and even more excited to talk about my favorite topic, money.
I love it. You and me both. You and me both. We can agree to that. All right, so we got a lot to get into. I know our audience is going to want to hear a lot of different stuff from you. So start off by just telling us what it is that you do, how you got into this field, and ultimately what you help people to accomplish.
Yeah. So, actually, I started this whole journey at the age of 18.
Okay.
And luckily, it was because of my family. I'm really second generation into this money multiplier method that we teach. And what it is, it's how to build, keep, and create wealth through our own debts and expenses that we already have. And what it truly is by taking back the control of the banking function in our lives. Because my late mentor, he unfortunately passed away in 2019, but R. Nelson Nash, he would always tell me, he says, Hannah, you want to be in two businesses in your life. The first business is the one that you're passionate about, gets you up out of bed every day, supports the livelihood, supports the family. But the second business is the banking business, the business that finances everything throughout our life. And that's what I really teach on.
Yeah, I'm pumped to get into this because I've seen so many high-level professionals, smart executives, smart business owners, even myself and people in my industry that know finances very well struggle with the banking component. So I want to unpack that a little bit more. So tell us a little bit more about what high earners, high achievers, or really any Americans out there can do to sort of control that banking function and run that banking institution within their lives.
Yeah, because even like when I'm traveling around the country, speaking on stages, doing my TV interviews, a lot of people, we all know how to go make money. We all know how to go make the money, but we suck at keeping it. So I just want to keep the money that I'm already making. And really, when we're going out there and we're making our money, we're only kind of given a few options. Okay, when I go make these dollars, well, I could go leave it down at the commercial bank because, well, that's just where they keep the money at. And then what those bankers do is they use our money and they make a good living off of our money. Or, I could go leave it underneath my mattress or dig a hole in the backyard. But I don't really want to do that because then I'm subject to flooding, fire, theft, or the hidden tax called inflation. Or the final option is I could go leave it with a financial advisor who thinks they can manage my money better than I can. And that's really just all of the options that we're given. So instead, what I personally do and where I keep the majority of my wealth is inside of my whole life insurance policies. Now, these policies, though, they gotta be designed specifically for high immediate cash value. So it's not like you can go and just call up our brother-in-law that sells life insurance and says, hey, I want one of these whole life policies, because we all got a brother-in-law that sells life insurance, do we not? So no, it's gotta be designed specifically for high immediate cash value. So what I mean by that is when I put my premium deposit into this policy, I immediately, and my definition of immediately is within 30 days, have access to cash value that I can now pull out that cash value to use it for whatever I want.
All right, so let's unpack that. I'm familiar with this. We've done a fair amount of these for clients over the years. Tell us a little bit about what's, because life insurance gets a bad rap oftentimes
Right.
because of what you said, the brother-in-law that sells life insurance, right? That just wants to kind of sort of jam life insurance down your throat. So tell us a little bit about the keys to structuring these whole life policies effectively so that your money is growing for you, but that you also have access to the cash immediately, to your point, which, is not always the case in these policies.
Yeah, yeah. My biggest advice is honestly working with somebody who is an authorized IBC practitioner. So IBC stands for the infinite banking concept. And how you know that you're working with somebody, if you go to infinitebanking.org, there's actually a practitioner's finder on there. And you can look up the people in your area or all across the country. But those are the people that have really gone through the training to properly educate the public about high early cash value policies and to use them properly. Because I'll be honest, I mean, a lot of people get a hold of Nelson's book, and it's this black book here. I think everybody needs to have and add this book, Becoming Your Own Banker, to their financial wealth building library. But a lot of people get a hold of Nelson's book and then they just think it's a tool to go and sell more policies, make more commissions for themselves. And it's like, no, the policy is just the product that we're using.
Right.
What we're really talking about is the process of how we're utilizing the policies to go and buy finance, buy our investments, whatever it is that we're doing within our monetary life.
That's great. Let's unpack that a little bit more because I love that concept. So now we won't go into the weeds around structuring the policy. We'll save that for another time. But let's just assume that. Walk me through an individual that you or your team or these accredited individuals might be working with. You've got an individual, we set them up with one of these whole life policies. They're contributing to it regularly. What are you doing with the cash value now? How are we managing it sort of day to day, month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year?
Yes, yeah. So first of all, I'll say you get to decide how much you want to start your policy with. If somebody's coming to you and saying you need to do X amount of money into your policy, I'd personally run the other direction. You need to own that aspect of your banking life. You need to tell that individual how much you want to deposit into your policy. And that could be on a monthly, quarterly, twice a year, or even annual basis. For instance, when I was 18 and I started my first policy, I was still a waitress at Cracker Barrel. Okay. And I started my first policy $400 a month because that's all I could afford at the time. I was saving up about $100 a week, $400 a month. And so that's just where I started. But what I did from there, and I'm just going to use my story for a personal reference. I can get into others, but honestly, when I turned 19, I needed a new laptop for business. And so MacBooks, I mean, those suckers are pretty expensive. It was like $2,500. Sure. So what I did is I took a loan for my policy, went down to the Apple store, bought that MacBook, and then I just played honest banker with myself. Okay, if I borrowed from my own bank, I need to pay myself back and charge myself interest. Right. Treat your money just how you treat the banker's money. So that's what I did. That was my first ever purchase. But to fast forward, I mean, I bought in cars, I bought in houses. This is how I pay my property taxes, my IRS bill every year. And my more favorable thing is I'm into real estate investing, more on the paper side, private lending. Yep. But this is how I go and fund all of my real estate investments is through my policies, because now I'm double dipping on that money. Right. I'm always and forever earning that uninterrupted compounding interest in my policy, and I take it out and I can go make it work over here in the investment deal that I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, the concept of leverage on your investments is one that not enough people understand. The wealthy understand it, but not enough of the common Americans understand how to sort of use your own money to ultimately make more money, right? So, all right, so I want to unpack the concept of taking loans off the policy, because that's a really important, piece of this whole concept. Explain to someone that doesn't exactly know how that works, what you're actually doing. So they understand probably contributing to a life insurance contract, but now you want to go buy the car, you want to go buy the MacBook, you want to go invest in the real estate properly. What are you actually doing to get the loan out? And then how are you paying yourself back?
Yes, no, and I think this is perfect because honestly, if y'all want to nerd out on this, this is what's called the opportunity cost of your money.
Right.
All right. And so essentially, like, let's say that I'm in the market and I want to go purchase myself a $50,000 car.
Right.
Well, I could have that $50,000 saved up in my checking or savings account at the bank, and I could withdraw the $50,000 out and go give it to the car salesman. Okay, I've accomplished the goal of buying my car, but guess what I don't have anymore? I no longer have that $50,000 because it was inside of my pocket at the local bank,
Right.
earning some form of interest. And when I just go and withdraw it out, I no longer have that. So the whole idea is just add the additional step of run the money through the policy first, and then I'll take it out, because we're not withdrawing the money from the policy. We're taking out a policy loan.
Right.
And I know this is when people get tricked up because they're thinking, well, Hannah, a loan it's a debt, it's a
Right.
payment,
Right.
it's an expense. And it's like, no, think like a banker. In the traditional sense, are loans assets to banks? Yes. So you got to get your mindset around you being your own banker now. So to get even more specific and technical, logistically, what's going on is when I call into the insurance company, I say, hey, I want to take out this $50,000 loan. First of all, they never ask me what I'm using the money for, when I'm going to pay it back, or how I'm going to pay it back, because they don't care. What's happening is I'm putting my policy death benefit up for collateral.
Right.
And I'm taking a loan from the general funds of the insurance company. So I'm using their $50,000 in the real world to go buy the car. And that's how and why my $50,000 still remains in the policy to grow and compound as if it wasn't even touched.
Okay, great. Now take it a step further. First and foremost, because a lot of people, I agree with you, they hear loan and they feel like, oh, I'm in debt. I never want any debt, et cetera, et cetera. But it's really leverage, not debt.
Yes.
But how much can you educate our people on how much can you take from your policy? Like a typical policy, if you've got $10,000 in cash value, how much can you loan against? And then what's the method for, and what do you recommend as a means to pay it back?
Yes. I'm going to hit on that one first, because let's use this example of if I take out this $50,000 loan for my policy, go buy the car.
Right.
Now, what you could do, because this is the freedom of you being your own banker, how much do you want to pay yourself back? How frequently? Is it every month? Is it every quarter? How much interest do you want to charge yourself? That's all within your control now. I can tell you, me personally, anytime I take out a policy loan, I'm paying myself back at 10%, because the more aggressive I am with the interest that I'm just charging myself, more money that's going to be back inside my pocket anyways. So I personally just do 10% on any loans I take out. But sometimes, maybe you just want to go with market rates, hey, 6-7%. And here's a cool little resource that I use. If you go to bankrate.com,
great site.
they actually have a loan calculator. And then that's how much I know to pay myself back every month. I just put in all my specs into there.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Now to the second question, how much can you take as a loan? Like, everyone has different cash values and different amounts that they can contribute to build up the cash value. How much can you withdraw?
Yes. So year one, we don't have access to dollar for dollar quite yet. So the analogy I like to use is starting a policy is almost like starting a business from scratch. And here's kind of what I mean by that. Year one, when I put $1 of premium into my policy, I have access to 70 cents. So if I put in $10,000, I'll have access to 7,000. Okay, I get it though, because I just started this business. There's going to be overhead costs, marketing expenses, right? But year two, I put $1 into this policy or this business. Well, now my profits are 95 cents or 95%. Year 2, I put in 10,000. Now I have 95,000 of cash growth that year.
Right.
Year 3, when I put in my dollar, now I have access to that same dollar. It's growing by how much I put into it. That's my break-even year. But then now this is where the fun starts happening. Year 4, I put in $1. Well, now it's growing by $1.05.
Right.
Year 5, put in $1. Now it's growing by $1.10. And it's just because of that uninterrupted compounding. Every day and year is better than the day and year prior.
Got it. Got it. All right. So the concept, you've done a great job of articulating. How about the specifics? What should folks look out for in insurance contracts to make sure that they're structured properly so that they can, as you mentioned, be their own bank?
Yes. So first of all, when you start to go down this rabbit hole of the infinite banking concept, you're going to stumble upon different philosophies of buy term and invest the difference, or IULs versus whole life. It's a huge conversation, which we could spend a whole 2-hour session talking about. But when you're going out here and really wanting to utilize the policy to become your own banker, you only want to use a whole life policy. So number one, it has to be whole life. And the reason being, it's a guaranteed assets that's not based on market performance, government intervention, etc. It's guaranteed contractual guarantees. Number 2, you want it to be with a mutually owned insurance company. So there's some mutual companies, there's stock held companies. You want it to be with mutually owned companies. And then number 3, you want to make sure that it has in your overfunding what's called the paid up additions rider. Now, I know we're kind of getting more into the specifics and insurance lingo, but there's really 2 moving parts of that policy premium. You have your base premium and your paid up additions. And just quickly, Dan, if I can explain this,
Please.
This is kind of how I like to articulate it and kind of explain it in layman's terms using analogies. But when this policy is designed, how you know it's specially engineered is that base and the paid up additions premium. And how I like to describe it is that if you've ever seen a space shuttle take off into space, you have the base of that rocket ship, and that base is your base premium.
Right.
Okay. And then you got these 2 booster rockets that are attached onto the side. Those are your paid up additions. And you want the majority of your premium going towards those booster rockets, those paid up additions, because that's what gets my rocket ship out of the sky and out of the atmosphere. In the policy world, that's how and why I have access to this cash value immediately.
Okay, awesome. Great analogy. I love the rocket ship analogy. Let's talk a little bit about you, the money multiplier. So you've described this concept really, really well. What do you help clients to do, Hannah? What is your day-to-day like?
Yes. So honestly, I am on the phone all the time, traveling, speaking on stages, do my own podcast show, which I love doing. But you know, honestly, I'm teaching and helping folks implement this infinite banking concept. So hopefully when people hear about this, they want to do this with me. They don't have to, but hopefully they want to, because this is 100% of what I do. So I help my folks obtain their policies, designing it for their needs, their goals. But more specifically, once that policy goes active, that's when our work really begins. Because, okay, now it's active. What do I start doing with this? I got XYZ problems going on. How can I use this policy to go solve these money problems that I have? And that's where we spend a lot of our time, just myself within my business, is just helping folks strategize how to use their policies to pay off debts, financing, equipment, or, you know, paying taxes, whatever it is.
Are you typically dealing with, let's talk about your typical clients, the people that come to you. Are they business owners? Are they W-2 employees? What's the age range? Is it all over the place? Tell us a little bit about your typical client.
Yeah, you know what's funny? It's all over the
Yeah.
place because this is what my father would always say. He says, when you stand in front of a mirror and when you breathe, you fog it up, you need to know this information and you need to be implementing it. But, I would say mostly, so we got 17,000 plus clients in every state of the country. I would say 60% of them are real estate investors.
Okay.
And it's just because real estate investors really pick up on cash flow and leverage a lot quicker than like my traditional W-2 or 9 to 5 workers.
Right.
But I was just talking to a gentleman yesterday. He's 22 years old working as a mechanic. So it doesn't matter where you're at. And no, you don't have to be ultimately wealthy to do this stuff. Because again, I started my journey when I was still a waitress at Cracker Barrel. I think anybody can do it if you're living on a waitress salary.
Sure. When clients come to you, what are the biggest challenges that they're facing and what do you ultimately help them to achieve? It sounds like, obviously, I know the life insurance space well. There's a lot of moving parts there. So understanding and having an expert is super valuable. But what are the biggest challenges that your clients typically come to you with?
Yeah, I would say number one is probably the debt because honestly, over 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
My father was one of them. I mean, dad was a very successful chiropractor making over $1 million a year, but who cares if you're making $1 million if your overhead is 975, right? So I think they really hear my father's story of paying off that almost $1 million of debt in 39 months. So that's really what we help them with first. Then from there, we bridge the gap between the debt payoff to now wealth building. How can I use this to pay my taxes, minimize my tax liability?
Right.
How can I use this to fund my vacation, my kids' colleges? And then in the long-term aspect of it, because I don't know about you, Dan, and your perspective, but I have no money in the market. I have no money in 401ks, IRAs, or qualified plans because that's just me locking up my dollars and subjecting it to risks that I cannot control. So in the policies, this is my retirement income. This is my tax-free income that's going to supplement my expenses when I get to those latter years of my life.
Yeah, we certainly advocate and use many of those other vehicles as well. But I want you to hit on the tax piece quick because that's a really important component to this and one of the reasons why this can be a really, really sound investment. So talk us through why this can really be a tax optimized investment, across the board.
Yeah. And I would even argue that the policy is not my investment. It's just the place of where I warehouse and store my cash. Because here's my definition of an investment. An investment involves risk. It can go up in value and it can go down and lose value. My whole life policy can never lose value because I have a contractual guaranteed interest that they always have to pay me.
Right.
But from the tax standpoint, when I'm putting in money into the policy, this is always after tax dollars, which is totally opposite to a lot of our financial advisors tell us to do. They say, hey, go put your money in this 401k, take the tax break now, because later in life you won't be making as much money. And I'm sitting over here scratching my head thinking, what in the hell are you saying that I'm not going to be making as much more money later on down the road? But anyways, I digress.
It is backwards advice. It is traditional advice and it is backwards, but continue. I agree with you on that.
But see, I want to pay tax on my money one time only at the lowest rate possible, and then get that money into a tax-free environment where now it's growing tax-free for me. And so that's the tax-free growth of what's happening with inside of the policy. So when I get to that point that I'm taking out more from this policy than what I even put into it, that's all tax-free dollars to me, and I don't got to report that to the government, the IRS.
Okay, got it. And then let's talk a little bit about whether it be because we have a lot of our audience that's listening that I think would like to use this tactfully for sort of other opportunities, real estate investments, their own businesses, maybe consulting work that they're doing, or to fund a side hustle or whatever the case may be. So they want to use it for some other income generating asset, right? Whether it's a business or a true investment like real estate. Talk a little bit about what the impacts can be and the compounding effect that this can have if you use it effectively that way.
Yeah. And, because I kind of mentioned a little bit about the private lending that I like to do. I just like private lending because I'm a lazy investor. I'm busy over here building my business, right? So I just like that mailbox money that comes in every month. And I'll even say this. So for my parents listening, this is what my dad taught us kids that really got me into the mindset of going and putting my little green men to work. Okay, because that's what your dollars are. Your dollars are your little green men. And the objective is you want to go put that man to work, create an army of green men that are out there working. So then you can take your time freedom back, your location freedom back. If I want to go sit my butt on the boat on a Wednesday afternoon, I'm going to go do it, right?
I love it.
But it is, no matter what investment or business that you're in, I think that you should be investing in the things that you like, know, and understand. And whether it's real estate, it's crypto, stock options trading, all we're doing is we're just adding the one step of running the money through the policy first and then taking it out to go buy that investment, because now I'm just double dipping on my money.
Right.
I'm always going to earn the uninterrupted compounding in my policy, and I'm out here making interest on the money in that investment that I'm doing.
All right, that's really well said, and a great time for us to shift gears a little bit. So, all right, so Hannah, so now you told us all about your business, great concepts, important things for people to know and understand when it comes to personal banking. I love that concept. We're going to learn a little bit more about you. So you're going to enter into the lightning round, and
Love it.
we're going to ask you a question, and you just give me the first thought that comes to your head. It could be a one-word answer, it could be a long, drawn-out thought, and anywhere in between. Ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Cool. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
One meal for the rest of your life. What is it?
Butter chicken with garlic naan.
Wow, you didn't hesitate there. That just rolled off your tongue. I love it.
I'm a foodie, okay?
I like it. I like it. All right. What's one tool or piece of technology other than your computer or your phone that you can't live without?
I would say one tool or technology.
Hardware or software?
Yeah, can I say my Stairmaster?
Sure. Yeah, you sure can. You sure can. All right. I love it. I love it. Very good. Do you have a favorite quote or phrase? You've given probably a few already today about money or success.
Yeah, so actually I'm going to give you two if that's all right.
Please.
The first one, I remember Pop saying this all the time as kids, Zig Ziglar quote.
Yep.
If you help enough people get what they want, you in return are going to get what you want.
Yep.
That's why I just live my life giving my best stuff away for free, because I know it's all going to come back to me anyways. But then one that I think about almost every single day of my life is by Warren Buffett. And he says, if poor people would just start doing what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore.
That's right.
And it's like, how much freaking sense does that make? Just study up on these elite families, what they're doing, how they're keeping the money within the family, and then just mimic, copy them. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Sure. Well said. Well said. You already mentioned one, but I'll give you an opportunity if you want to repeat it again. Favorite book on finance or business?
Yeah, it is Becoming Your Own Banker. But honestly, though, if y'all have ever read a book by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy,
Yep.
Who Not
How? One of my favorites. Yep. One of my favorites. I love it. Yep. Dan Sullivan's a favorite of mine. I've read all of his books. All right. Very good. Do you have a personal hack? It could be a finance hack, or it could just be a personal hack that you subscribe to.
Yeah, I would say, hey, business owners, get yourself a bookkeeper sooner rather than later.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've had to learn that the hard way.
Amen to that. Agreed. One bucket list item that you've already accomplished.
Oh, yep. Backpacking in Thailand.
Okay, sweet. How long ago was that?
That was actually just earlier this year in March. That was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Good for you. What's one financial milestone that you're working towards?
Yeah, I would say to get myself to would that be the 8 figures just personally? So we hit the 7-figure mark. Now we're just working towards the 8 figures. That's just my personal goals of what I'm setting for myself.
Good for you. Good for you. If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
I would say give yourself grace.
Okay.
Especially as me being on the cusp of Gen Z, we grow up online, all of my generation. And so when you're going out there looking at Instagram, Facebook, and different things, you want to compare yourself to the lifestyle that other people are living. So just give yourself grace. You're on your own journey and your own path.
Love it. Love it. Well said. All right. And then lastly, if our listeners want to connect with you, collaborate, work with you, what's the best way to follow you, connect with you, reach out to you, etc.?
Yeah. So you can learn more about me at HannahKesler.com. Hannah spelled the same ways, forwards and backwards, Kesler with one S.
Okay.
And also the Money Multiplier. You can always find us there.
Very cool. Very cool. Hannah, really enjoyed the conversation. You've got a lot of interesting wisdom and I think a great way of delivering it. So thanks for sharing your time and your insights with us today.
Thank you, Dan. Let's do it again sometime.
I would love to. That is it for our episode. You can always find our podcast along with our newsletter, YouTube channel, all free at makingsenseofyourmoney.com. And as always, prioritize your version of a rich life. Cheers, everybody.